G'day guys, Wereman here, welcome back to the workshop, and we are still looking at stuff that Juggernauts enjoy, and this time we're doing different armor types, and I'm here with Adam again.
Yeah.
First, it's early in the morning, people, don't give me hassle.
Something different, we hate it.
We hate it.
We don't hate it.
No, it's all good, it's all good. Now there are some very, very cool armor types. There's some that do some really, really cool stuff. I think I mentioned this in the internal structure video that we did. I'm using TACOPS, so I haven't got access to absolutely all of them. I've only got the ones that are in TACOPS, but I am dead sure there's more than what I have here. If one of them comes up in the Juggernaut video, then I'll mention it there, and it shouldn't be a big deal, but it's well worth looking at. Like if you get onto Sana or Master Unit List, or you're using Mega Mech Lab and it says, oh, stealth armor, and you don't know how stealth armor works, it's worth looking it up. But there's some that are like very advanced and very funky, and they can do some really, really cool stuff. I only want to touch on like 2 or 3 at the moment that are like more basic advances. There's pretty much one of each that will like help you against specific damage types, right? So reflective armor, or laser reflective armor, or reflect armor, or glazed armor is basically a armor that gives you less damage from energy weapons.
Okay,
right.
It had a bit of a theme there from the names.
Yeah. That's it. It's So laser reflective armor reduces all damage and heat effects from flamers, lasers, PPCs, plasma weapons, and energy-based infantry weapons by half, rounded down to a minimum of 1 point of damage and or heat. Because the armor is more brittle than usual, however, damage from falls, physical attacks, and moving through building walls is doubled against locations protected by it. In addition, damage from area effect weapons, such as artillery, is doubled against locations protected by laser reflective armor.
Oh no.
So, armor-piercing weapons, such as armor-piercing ammo, tandem charge missiles, tasers, receive a +2 modifier on their armor-piercing effects. So critical hit checks for AP and blah, 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 etc. They all get a +2 for that roll. For any successful attacks against a location protected. Against all other weapon types, they behave normally. So what it is basically is you're halving damage from energy weapons, but you're taking extra damage from explosives and walls and physical attacks, falls, and then you've got problems with armor piercing stuff. So it's brittle, so it can punch through a lot easier. Right, that's one example. So laser reflective inner sphere armor still gives you 16 points per ton. And that's one of the things that you'll see in this as we go through this. This is all experimental mostly. Most of them are fairly high in the tech tree, high in the timeline. Laser reflective is actually only in the 3050s. 3055 it was prototyped, and R&D started, and then 3058 it was prototyped for the inner sphere. But they also modify how many points per ton you get, right? So some of them are really super cool, but they only give you like X amount of points per ton instead of the 16 normal.
Okay.
Laser reflective is good against energy weapons. If you're going up against someone and you know they take a lot of energy weapons, if they always take energy weapon heavy units, then you can maybe one day say, you know what, I'm going to take laser reflective and halve all the damage from your units.
That's right. I'm going to become a god of the sun.
Yeah. But if they then walk up to you and punch you, you'll take double damage. Yeah. So you've got to up and down this.
God of the sun with a glass jaw.
Yeah. But something like, I'm imagining something like a Hollander. If you didn't put stealth armor on it, which I would prefer because it gives you penalties for shooting at it.
Yeah.
But something like laser reflective armor on a Hollander, all those large pulse lasers and PPCs and ER lasers and things that are coming your way, all half damage, and you're running away before anybody comes up and punches you. So, you know, that could be handy. But yeah, you've also got hardened armor. There is I think there's a reactive. Where's reactive? Yeah, okay. So we'll do reactive armor first, because reactive armor is one of the other like
The armor
specific
types?
missile type, the specific weapon types.
Okay.
So reactive armor reduces all damage from explosive type weapons such as missiles, mortars, artillery weapons by half to a minimum of 1 rounded down. Physical attacks, as well as attacks using energy weapons, autocannons, Gauss weapons, or other weapons, deliver their normal damage and effects to the target, but any weapons that rely on armor-piercing effect, for instance, tandem charge, armor-piercing ammo, and tasers, lose any special armor-penetrating abilities if they strike a location protected by reactive armor.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, so
it's basically what the Abram tanks have on them.
yeah, it's kind of like an ablative.
Ablative.
Thing. Yeah, kind of like that.
Reactive blazer.
They also call it blazer armor. So excess damage beyond the armor's capacity affects internal structural or structural integrity per the normal rules for the location structure type. In addition to the above rules, any penetrating or floating criticals, so when you roll a 2, hits to a reactive armor critical slot, not only roll the critical hit again as usual, but also require a second 2d6 roll. So the reactive armor has, where does it say how many critical slots it takes up? BattleTech. Reactive armor is 14, yeah, as well as the required slots of internal and random construction nodes. So I'm pretty sure 14 for BattleTechs, right? So you're getting 16 tons per point, which is cool, but it takes 14 locations in a BattleTech, 7 for clan, right? But when you roll them, right, it's normally a roll again.
Yeah.
It's like endosteel and ferrofibrous. So you roll again, but you also get a second 2d6 roll. And that, if this yields a 2, all remaining armor in the location is destroyed and the internal structure in that location suffers an additional 1 point of damage. So it's hitting it just right so that it just blows all the armor off.
Takes it, oh God.
Which is insane. But that's
the crowd would love it. Imagine that. Yeah. Solaris, it's just yay.
Yeah, there is that. But that's penetrating and floating critical hits. So the armor piercing stuff, you're not going to get that from. This is only the 2 on the location thing, right? So you get that 2 and the machine gun penetrates in and hits some little thing and it sets a reaction off and the whole lot of the armor just blows off,
the old
which is ridiculous,
thing,
but yeah.
That's I don't know, it's interesting. It's interesting, but yeah.
It gives you half damage with missiles, mortars, and artillery weapons and doesn't let you... It negates the armor piercing stuff. So it's not awful.
No, that's right, yeah.
It's just a thing. Now there is also hardened armor. So your hardened armor is 8 points per ton, which is, that's...
Well, it's
half the amount, but each point of hardened armor can sustain 2 points of damage. So we did the reinforced structure, I think it was, in the internal structure one, where it's 2 points per bubble. This is the same thing, but it's armor. To reflect this, you mark it off with an X, so 1 for the first point and another cross for the second point. Yeah, so penetrating critical hits, including floating critical hits against a unit protected by hardened armor, suffer a -2 modifier to all rolls on the determining critical hits table. If the attack did not strike a location or facing protected by hardened, then it doesn't apply. But if you hit someone with hardened armor and you get, say, a 2, or you're using AP ammo or tandem charge ammo, then you get a -2 on all your rolls on the determining critical hits table. So the best you can get is a 10, and that's only if you roll a 12. And then there's other modifiers to that as well. So, I mean, if you're using AP ammo, I think you get a modifier based on the size of your autocannon. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I think I remember that you get a modifier for that. So that is a thing. But you get an additional -2 to all rolls for critical hits. Negates the bonus armor penetrating effects of armor piercing ammo, tandem charge. If these weapons are fired against a location protected, the damage is not reduced as above, and they deliver their damage as if they were standard weapons.
It's nice.
Yeah, so instead of getting the 2 thing, the tandem charge in that, they just do, so tandem charge missiles just hit as if they were standard SRMs. So you do your 2 points, but you don't get the through critical thing. Units using hardened armor suffer noticeable mobility impairment that affects piloting and speed. To reflect this, mech units that carry hardened armor suffer a +1 piloting skill target modifier and -1 to their running MP. Combat vehicles suffer a +1 driving skill modifier. This MB reduction does not affect the number of improved jump jets that can be mounted, so you can still put up to your running MP in jump jets. But you get
cool.
you get a +1 piloting skill, which is not cool, and a -1 to your running MP, which is not cool. But you also have armor that can take 2 points per bubble.
It's like, yeah, that's pretty good.
So, like I say, this comes up a lot in Juggernauts because they're not really interested in moving particularly quickly. They're not really interested in making any particularly dangerous maneuvers with piloting skill and stuff. But what they do want is something that can tank a butt ton of damage. And the hardened armor can do that.
Oh, that's rude, eh? You put on, again, a quad mech comes into play. If you have a mech, that can help you because you get your inherent bonuses.
Yeah.
Piloting, that'll be good.
There's one that's just slightly better, I think. Because hardened armor gets you the 8 points per ton.
Yeah.
Doesn't take up any space. Ferrolamellar armor takes up 12 spaces, but gives you 14 points per ton. So you're getting more, but you're losing space. But a location protected by ferrolamellar armor reduces all damage by 1 point for every 5 points or fraction thereof delivered per hit, to a minimum of 0 points of damage. So you're basically dividing it by 5. If that location is also protected by spikes, then the reduction for spikes is done first, and then you do the rest. Excess damage will affect internal structure or structural integrity as normal rules. So if you've got ferrolamellar armor, you get only 1 point for every 5 points delivered. But if you're using, say, what was the crappy internal structure called? I can't remember. The original that takes double. So you'd take 1 for every 5, but if they do breach it, then any damage points that are left will go through and then double. Yeah, maybe don't mix them.
I reckon, but gee, that's really nice. That's cool.
It's not bad. Weapons reduced to 0 damage effects by ferrolamellar, such as cluster munitions for an LBX, because it reduces all by 1 point for every 5 points. So if you're only doing 1 point, it's reduced by 1 to a minimum of 0. So 1 pellet from an LBX thing only does 1 point. It's reduced by 1 point because it's part of 5. So none of them, they just ping off.
It just pings off.
They don't do anything. May not inflict pilot injury in the event of a cockpit hit location. So if they manage to hit the head, you don't take a damage for a head hit from LBX units, nor may they deliver a penetrating or floating critical hit from special hit location rolls. However, against combat and support vehicles, such weapons may inflict motive system damage. So even if you put ferrolamellar armor on your vehicles, they can still take like track damage and skirt damage and things like that. It also negates armor penetrating effects of armor piercing ammo like tandem charge, AP ammo from the autocannons, mech tasers, etc. If these weapons are fired against a location protected by ferrolamellar, they deliver their standard damage to the armor only, and that's it. They don't get any extra stuff. They just deal it as normal. But so something like PPC hitting ferrolamellar armor, you've got 2 lots of 5 or part thereof, so it reduces it by 2 points. So you're only dealing 8 damage with that weapon against ferrolamellar armor. So it isn't like huge, but it's actually pretty cool. Stuff that's only 1 or 2 points of damage, like a machine gun, is reduced almost to nothing. Light machine guns don't do anything. LBX clusters don't do anything. And those are stuff that can, like, if you hit a normal mech with a cluster ammo, like an LB-20X, you can hit up to 20 different locations if you're not careful. Like, you could hit the head 6 times, 2 leg hits, and like half a dozen other spaces, right?
Yeah.
So you've got that problem, but with the ferrolamellar, those are all, they just ping off. They're all negated. So
SRMs?
Yeah, see, SRMs are only doing 1 point of damage each. So that's not bad. You get an LRM at, like, normally they're in 5-point clusters.
Yes.
But if you've only got a short cluster, they're all reduced by 1.
That's right.
They're all reduced by 1. So every cluster of LRMs is only doing 4 points of damage, and then each, like, little cluster has their damage reduced by 1. It's all dropped by 1. So it's not awful. I mean, it isn't fantastic. It's still, you're getting damage, but it's not bad.
But little thing, you're immune to it. Your little points of damage.
All those little points of damage that would normally mess you up so bad with all the locations that you're rolling, they're not doing quite as much damage. And like I say, with some of the bigger units that you're working with here, they have the space and the weight to spare to say, okay, we're going to take an extra couple of tons of armor just to make up the difference between the 8 or the 14 that hardened or feral armor give you base versus the 16 that normal armor gives you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a few other types. Like I say, there's some different ones that are out in the world. I think there's one that's it's a combination of ballistic and the reactive. So it protects you against ballistic damage and explosive damage. I think I might have that one of the juggernauts that has that, actually, so it might come up at some point. But I don't have the actual specific rules here with me right now, so we'll have to take Sana's word for that when we get to it. But I mean, we can always go back through when I eventually get strategic ops, and we can have a look at them if you like.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth noting that you aren't stuck with just standard armor or ferrofibrous armor, right? There are other things that you can do. Now, a lot of them are very, very specific and have some very serious downsides. But they're there if you want to try and use them. I mean, it's a thing. You can do it.
If you're just doing like stadium battles one-on-one, you just let's design a new mech and what can I have and use everything. Some of that armor type could be so nice.
The hardened armor, especially things like I mean, it's only got 8 points per ton, but each one of them tanks 2 points per bubble. So you're technically getting rid of 16 damage anyway. But it negates all of those through armor things and knocks a bunch of other stuff on its butt and helps you out with things like that. So,
but you can still buy more armor because it's your armor points.
So you can always just take 2 tons of hardened armor for every 1 ton you would normally put in, and then just drop like a couple of weapons or something. If you then got some nice big chunky weapons and you drop all your secondary weapons and say, okay, I'm going to rely on my PPC and my Act 20, and you just go, okay, that's what I've got. Everything else is going into armor and mucking around.
Yeah.
And like I say, when we do the Juggernaut one, you're going to see a couple of those that I'm going to mention that are built with that sort of mindset, and they're really scary.
Legend so. Man.
But a few armor types for you to think about while you're building your own, or that you might come across while you're looking through things like Sana and Master Unit List and Mega Mech Lab, and you go, what the hell does reinforced structure do, or what does hardened armor do? Now, hopefully, you know.
But that's good because there will be a lot of times that it'll probably come up.
Yeah,
moving forward.
I think with Juggernauts, and I think possibly with the Brawlers as well. Although I haven't really looked at them, but definitely the Juggernauts because of their specific sort of mindset behind the unit. You've got a lot of that. I need this thing to stay alive for as long as possible, and I don't care how many tons I have to put into it. To do it, sort of thing. Yeah. Right. So that mindset comes up, and you're like, these are things that are just insanely powerful for that. But that was armor, and I think we'll go on to. We might just record Juggernauts now, eh?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I mean, it'll be a couple of days for you or something, but this is going to be like a split second for us. So yeah, you guys stay groovy, and we'll see you in the next one, eh?